Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is MOED KATAN Chav Gimel. We are holding 3 lines from the bottom of Chav Beis Amud Beis. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanu, we learned in the Brisa, Chacham Shemeis, if the Chacham passes away, who is the Chacham? Says Rashi 4 lines from the bottom. Chacham is the Memuna Hala'ir. He's in charge of the city, the town's Rav. Shemavakshim Mimenu Hoyra. If you have a question, you go ask this Chacham. So what happens if he passes away? Says the Gemara, Beis Medrashay Batal. His personal Beis HaMedrash, his yeshiva, his institution, is now idle. They're not in session during the Shiva, to enable the members of the Beis Medrash to be maspidim, to contemplate their loss and feel his absence. Continues the Brisa, Av Bezdin Shemes. He's the head of the court in town. He stands higher than the Rav himself. Now everybody's affected. Everybody has to join in the Avelus. Kol Batei Medrash should be Iroi B'Telem. All the Batei Medrash in the city, all the yeshivas, the Kailim, everything's shut down for the week. And even if they come to shul to daven, they make a shinei, a visible deviation to indicate this is not business as usual. Something drastic occurred. We have to contemplate our loss. We have to feel his absence and do teshuvah. They go into the shul, and they switch their places. One who's meant to sit on Tzafon, the north of the shul, sits in the south. Those who sat in the south, they switch over to the Tzafon. What's the point of switching seats? Explains the Bach. You know what they're indicating? We've lost our clarity, our direction, our leadership. Left turns into right, right turns into left. We're all confused. Hashem, please provide a leader. And this is an expression of tsar and avelus, on account of the loss, and is an expression of kavod to the departed Av Bezdin. Continues the Brisa. What about Nasi Shemes? He was the supreme leader of Klal Yisrael. Everybody joins the avelus. Batei Medrash kulim b'teilim. All the Batei Medrash in Klal Yisrael shut their doors. Well, of course, the Rishonim say it doesn't mean there's no learning for the week. Well, you can learn privately with your chavrusa at home, but the Beis HaMedrash as a public institution is out of session during that week. Ubnei HaKnesses nichnasun leBeis HaKnesses. Now, when they come into shul to daven on Shabbos, they come in, but for a very short time. V'koyin and Shiva, they come read the 7 portions aliyahs of the Torah, and that's it. They don't even daven together. They leave the shul. Rashi says, "V'koyin Shiva." Rashi on top. V'koyin Shiva b'sefer Torah. V'ein mispalon yachad Beis HaKnesses. They don't even daven together as a tzibur. Ela kol echad ve'echad mispalon beis. They go back home to daven. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda ben Korcha Omer, Lo sheyelchu v'yitaylu b'shuk. When they leave shul, it's not to enable them to just take a leisure walk. That's not the point of being mevatel the Beis HaMedrash. It's not the point of going home from shul early. Ella, there's a point to it. There's a purpose. Yoshvin v'doimen, some agoris v'daven. They sit in avelus, in distress, and they contemplate their loss, the tzaddik's absence. And this is a kaveh to the tzaddik, connects them to him. Perhaps they will be zocheh through him to grow in Torah and be zocheh to a new leader. Continues the Brisa. In a house where an Avel is sitting Shiva, we don't speak words of halacha, shmua, va'agada, words of agada. So aside from the Avel himself, who is not meant to engage in the Torah, we don't learn in the Beis Avel. It's not a place for Torah. It's a place of Avelis, which is not consistent with the Simcha of Torah. However, Amru Alav, the following was said regarding Al Rabbi Chanani ben Gamliel. He would learn in a Beis Avel. Some of us should learn specifically on Shabbos. On Shabbos, since you're not meant to observe Avelus B'Farhesia, make a publicly visible Avelus, so he would learn even in the Beis Avel. Tan Rabbana, we learned in a Brisa, Avel, how does the Avel conduct himself regarding leaving his home, sitting in shul? So it depends which week. It's broken down into 4 weeks. Shabbos Rishona, the first 7 days of Shiva. Eina Yotzei Pesach Beisei. He will not leave his home at all. Shnia, the next week. Yotzei, he may leave his home, even go to shul. Ve'eina Yeshiv Imkami, but he doesn't take his set makam, his makam kavur. He switches seats. Things aren't on track. I just experienced the Avelus. Things aren't on track. So he switches his seat. Shlish is the third week. Yeshiv Imkami, he can take his set seat. But ve'eina medaber, he doesn't talk as much as he used to. He minimizes social interactions. Revi is the 4th week. Hariku Chal Adam, he joins the crowd, back on track. He can take a seat, he can converse, he can socialize after that. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, he pushes it a week behind. Is there a need to say that the first week he doesn't leave his home? Of course not. Isn't that obvious? Sharei, Hakol Nichnosen Lebeisei Nachmei. Isn't everybody coming to comfort him? Of course he's home. That's a given. Elo rather, you know which week he stays home? The 2nd week. Shnia Eina Yotzei Pesach Beisei. 2nd week he's home. Shlish is the 3rd week. Yotzei, he can leave and go to shul. Ve'eina Yeshiv Imkami, it doesn't take his set place, his makam kavua. Revi is the 4th week. Yeshiv Imkami, he can take his seat. Ve'eina Medaba, but he minimizes dibur, conversing with others. Chamish is the 5th week. Hariku Chal Adam, he joins the crowd. Tana Rabban, Kol Shloshim Yom L'Nisron. So after the more critical phase of Shiva, we have the Shloshim, less restrictive, no haircuts, no new clothing, and also no marrying. There's no marrying during the Shloshim. Meisa Ishte, suppose his wife passed away. Asor Lisa Isha Acheres. In this case, he must delay even further. He may not remarry until when? Ad Sheyavru Olav Shloisha Regalim, until he experiences 3 Yamim Tovim. There are 3 reasons for this halacha given in Tosfos. Firstly, he says, if he's himself 3 regalim without simcha, he's lonely, he's miserable. That will ensure that he doesn't completely forget the feelings for his first wife. We don't want that to be totally erased from his memory and from his conscience. Therefore, he experiences a year, 3 regalim of loneliness. In which case, sometimes a person only appreciates what he had when he doesn't have it. So that's the point of delaying 3 regalim. Inami, another pshat says Tosfos, Kadei she'isa isha acheres v'lo yehi zocher min harishona. Shloi days b'mita. He says, look, marrying too close can create an emotional conflict. We don't want interference in a second relationship, so we let some time pass by. We have to have a significant, substantial lapse of time so that his feelings and memory for his first wife is allowed to fade somewhat, not completely, but fade somewhat, which will now enable him to develop a healthy relationship with his second wife. V'oid, the third pshat, he might tease his second wife. Penyas kirena avas ishta lekantro, he might, you don't know how to cook, you should have seen the way. So we don't want that conflict, that chashash of shalom bayis issue. So we let some time pass, and then he's ready to move on. Continues the Brisa on the third wide line. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, he doesn't have to wait that long. Regel Rishon V'Sheni Asur. So he needs to wait 1 and 2, but that's it. Shlishi Mutar, there's no need to wait for a third regel. We have some exceptions to this halacha. 2 exceptions. Number 1, Him Ein Loi Banim. Suppose this fellow never had any children. He hadn't yet fulfilled the mitzvah of Pru Uravu. In this case, we make exception. Mutar Lisala Alter, he can remarry immediately. Mishum Bitul Piryavarib, because he has to fulfill a mitzvah. Likewise, let's say his first wife left over some young children, so he has some young kids to take care of. Banim Katanim. There again, mutar lisal alter, he can remarry immediately, because who does the right job? Who does the good job when it comes to chinuch? The Rashi Ksav says, "The isha marbayu lebanim." The wife knows how to take care of the kids properly. She has patience, and she knows how to give them their attention, their emotion, provide their emotional needs. So we allow remarrying immediately to take care of these kids. Of course, as Taisus points out, not during Shiva, but soon enough. In fact, we have a story to support this. Mas shemeisa isha shal Yosef HaKohen. So Yosef HaKohen's wife passes away. He turned to his wife's sister, still in the Beis HaKvaros, and he says, go take care of the children of your sister, of your nieces and nephews. Meaning, prepare for marriage. So you married her, right then and there. Still, he didn't live with her as married until after a while passed. How much time? You waited for that. For that he waited 30 days. This is two pshatim. What does this mean? So firstly he says, Lav dafka. It doesn't mean mamish in the Beis HaKvaros. Sha'aval kol shiva asra, has to wait 7 days. So even in these special circumstances that we allow advancement, we allow doing it quickly without having that lapse of time of 3 regalim, but not during the shiva. So Beis HaKvaros is just a term. It doesn't necessarily mean right away. V'riva mefarish. According to Riva, what happened was she passed away and she was buried Erev Pesach. He brings a Gemara in Pesachim, actually in Zvachim, that speaks about a story of an Isha passed away Erev Pesach, and he says this was the same Isha. So what happens? As soon as he sits he observes some short moment of Shiva. He observes some Avelos on Erev Pesach. The regal comes and cuts the Shiva short. Shiva's over. So now he can go get married. So it means literally, Beis HaKvaros. They had a quick Shiva, was over, he can marry her. Says the Gemara, what else must a Aval not do during Shleishim? Tana Rabbanan, called Shleishim Yom L'Giyutz. So Giyutz is referring to properly pressed, properly washed and pressed clothing. So that is not meant to be worn during Shleishim. You can wear fresh clothing, laundered clothing, but not begadim migu hatzim, which are made to appear like new begadim. That he should keep away from. Kol Shleishim Yom L'Giyutz. Echad kelim chadashim, whether they're actually new begadim, ve'echad kelim yishanim yoitzin mitei hamachbesh, or whether they're used begadim, but they were now removed from the machbesh, from under the press, in which case they were made to look like new. So according to Tanakama, it applies to really new ones or renewed ones. Rabbi Yamino, lo yasra lekelim chadashim bavad. Only new begadim, but renewed begadim are okay. Rabbi Lezer B'Shimon Omer, he adds another kula. Lo yasra lekelim chadashim, need to be really new, levanim bavad, only white ones, in which case they look shiny and glistening and really sparkling. So according to Tanakama, Meguhatzim applies to new or used. According to Rebbe, only new ones. According to the third shit, Rabbi Lezer Shimon, new and white. Abaye nafik begarda de sarbla. Rebbe, Abaye was wearing a garda de sarbla, this type of garment, which was meguhatz, it was properly pressed, but it was a pre-used beged, and he allowed it during Avelis. Rebbe, in line with Rebbe, only chadashim aras. Rava Nafik. Rava walked out wearing this following article: B'chimutza rumisa, a Roman robe, sumakta, a red one, chadatianua, a brand new red robe during the Shleishim. In line with who? Rabbi Lezer Shimon, who says new is okay as long as it's not white. In fact, he says we follow Rabbi Shita, that it's only a problem if it's new and white, and that's what we do today as well. Now the Mishnah spoke about regel interrupting the shiva, regel cutting short the shloshim, because regel by essence is zman simcha, as the Gemara learned earlier that regel is asay de rabbim, samachta b'chagecha, it's a time of joy and happiness. That festive occasion will now override the avelus, as opposed to Shabbos, which, although it's a pleasant day, a day of oineg, but we don't find the word simcha. The term simcha doesn't apply to Shabbos. That's why we find this differentiation between Yom Tov, which cannot be considered part of the shiva, as opposed to Shabbos, which counts for the shiva because it's not a contradiction to the concept of shiva. It counts for the shiva and doesn't interrupt the shiva. There was a machlokes between Bnei Yehuda and Ubnei Galila regarding the halacha on Shabbos. Hani Amri, some would say yesh avelos b'Shabbos. On Shabbos you do observe some elements of avelos. Tosfos points out, of course, it's only dvarim shebetzina, things which are not visible. So you don't make a public display of avelos, but things that can be done quietly, refraining from tashon shamita, etc. That applies to Shabbos as well. V'hani Amri, the other ones held no, en avelos b'Shabbos. Shabbos is not a day for avelos. Why? So Tosfos over here, on the bottom, on the last line of Tosfos, this is the second Tosfos on the page. It brings from the Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi mefarish. Why do they hold ein avelos b'Shabbos? Mefarish tama de Shabbos the ein avelos noyeg boy b'shem dechsiv birchas Hashem hitasher. The pasuk in Mishlei. Birchas Hashem hitasher v'lo yosef etzev ima. And Shabbos, v'Shabbos ksive bracha. We find the term bracha applied to Shabbos. Shabbos is makara bracha. Bracha denotes expansion, generosity. That's incompatible with sadness, avelus, etzev, constriction, and it doesn't go together. So on the one hand, you have Yom Tov, which is a festive occasion, simcha. On the other hand, you have a weekday, which can accommodate avelus. In the middle, you have Shabbos, which is somewhere in the middle. It isn't necessarily a Yom Simcha, but it's a Yom Bracha, which requires happiness, expansion, and not restriction, and sadness, and subduedness. So that's the time of this shita. There is no avelus on Shabbos. Now, they're both going to bring a ride from our Mishnah, from the Lashon of our Mishnah. Mishnah says Shabbos is oila, ve'enam afsekas. It counts. It can count towards the shiva, nor does it interrupt the shiva. Man the Amar yesh avelos b'Shabbos. The one that had held there was avelos on Shabbos, the Ketani, because the Mishnah says oila, Shabbos counts for shiva. Apparently, it's the part of the avelos procedure. Man the Amar ein avelos b'Shabbos. Other shita held. I'll bring it right to my shita. The Ketani enam afsekas. Mishnah has to go ahead and tell us Shabbos will not interfere with Shiva. Now, if we can contemplate that Avelus applies to Shabbos as well, Hashta Avelus Nahaga, if you're going to tell me that Avelus is in session, is active on Shabbos itself, do you need to tell me that Shabbos won't interrupt the Avelus? Shabbos itself is part of the Avelus. Of course it's not going to interrupt. So why did the Mishnah have to tell you that Shabbos is not mafsik? Oh, because Shabbos is not part of the Avelus system. So the Mishnah has to tell us, notwithstanding the fact that you can't observe Avelus for Shabbos, so despite the fact that you can't include the Shabbos in the Avelus, but it's not going to be mafsik. It's not going to cut it short. So then why does the Mishnah say that? So he's bringing a raya, right? If you're going to say Avelus applies on Shabbos, why does the Mishnah have to tell you that it's not mafsik? Apparently, there's no Avelus for Shabbos, and still, the Mishnah tells you it's not mafsik because it's not. Doesn't have the same power as Yom Tov, which is Yom Simcha, which can cut the Avelus short. It can override the Avelus. Shabbos doesn't have that ability. But the actual observance of Avelus b'Shabbos, that doesn't work. So why does the Mishnah use the word oila, which sounds like Shabbos is part and parcel of the Shiva period? That sounds like you do Avelis on Shabbos. The Mishnah only meant that it can be counted together with the rest. It can be starved with the rest, despite the fact that it itself is not a Yom Avelis. The Mishnah should have used a different lashon. And Nimna Lebinyan Avelis, it can be counted. Oila sounds like it really is part of the Avelis procedure. Avelis applies on Shabbos. Avelis is active on Shabbos. Why does the Mishnah choose that lashon if it is not so? Says the Gemara Slav Dafka. I did the Kavoila Misna Seifa Einan Oilan on account of the fact that the Mishnah used the word Einam Oilan in the Seifa regarding Yom Tov, right? So we're just contrasting that lashon. So there it's not Oila, doesn't count for the Avelis. Shabbos does. Tana Reisha Oila, Shabbos counts, but it doesn't necessarily mean to say that you actually do Avelis b'Shabbos. It just counts. It's part of the Minyan Shiva. It's counted towards the Shiva, but you don't actually do Avelis b'Shabbos. Okay. According to the other sheet, that Avelis is activated on Shabbos as well. Why does the Mishnah have to spell out, well, Shabbos is not going to interrupt the Shiva? Of course it's not. Avelis applies on Shabbos itself. That was the kasha we asked. Mishum de Kabbalah Misna Sefer Mafsik in the same teretz. Since we spoke about Mafsik in the Sefer, Regel interrupts. So in contrast to that, we say Tana Reisha. When we speak about Shabbos, we use the lashon Einam Afsekes. But it's really more than that, because Shabbos itself is the Yom of Avelis. Okay. Leima Gatanai, perhaps this very question is a machlekes Tanai. The question of whether or not Avelis applies on Shabbos by Dvarim Shebetzina. Brisa says like this: Misha Meis Mutal Lefanav. If one's relative passed away, so the mace is before him, he's looking after him, he's making the burial arrangements, he's now considered an oinan. What is the halach of an oinan? This is still before Avelis, which only begins after burial. So he has to be very careful, very sensitive to the cover, to the feelings of the mace. Therefore, he should conduct his meal elsewhere, in a different room. Don't eat in the presence of the mace. Why? So Rashi, it's actually in Brachos. Rashi there says, because otherwise, it's loyig l'rosh. It's as though he's mocking a pauper. You're tending to your needs. You're not really paying attention to the mace, although one must eat. But eat elsewhere. Don't eat in front of the mace. Looks like you're not focused on the mace's needs. He doesn't have another room to eat. He goes over to his friend's house. He doesn't have a next door neighbor. So he makes a partition between himself and the mace to separate himself while he's eating. He doesn't have material to make a mechitza, so at least he should turn the other way and eat, and then turn back. And even when he eats, he shouldn't do it leaning over, in an oifen of comfort, of kavod, minimize the experience. Nor should he have meat or wine. It's interesting, Tesis says that even though, it's a paradox, even though when it comes to Avelis, there's no limitation, there's no restriction when it comes to meat or wine. You can have meat or wine. In fact, the Gemara in Tanis tells us, we don't want him to get too distressed and too anxious. We allow him basar v'yayin, but an oinan may not. What's the difference? So Tesis says, we're going to be machmir here. An oinan in this way is more chamer than an aval, because the point is he's meant to be preoccupied with tending to the mace's needs. Achar dvorim achirim, k'goyin achilas basar, v'shtias yayin. He says, Tashim Shamita, we're going to see. So, certain things indicate diversion, lack of focus on the mace's needs. I'm engaged in my own personal pleasures. That's a diversion. That's a lack of respect, lack of attention to the mace itself. When somebody's preoccupied with something, he has no heart to engage in pleasures. So, that's what he's meant to do. He's meant to refrain from personal pleasures, minimize your personal activities, have your meal, but without basar v'yayin. Ve'ein mevarach. Now, not only that, he's totally exempt from all mitzvahs. Because he's a Isik b'mitzvah, he's involved in a mitzvah, he's looking after the mace, and therefore he's part from all the other mitzvahs. Not only that, there's another element here as well. Taisus points out in the name of Yerushalmi, it's also lack of kavod. Look, I'm supposed to be preoccupied, I'm supposed to be busy with this mace, and I'm going to do other things, I'm going to do other mitzvahs. So, it's really two separate factors wrapped together in one. The fact that I'm busy with the mace, I'm meant to be preoccupied in Torah with the mace, that doesn't allow me involvement in anything else, even other mitzvahs. Of course, Isurim he must adhere to, he can't do Isurim. But to do mitzvahs, to do even brachas, that's a diversion. Right? It's taking up his time, taking up his attention. So even if it's not something that takes up time, but his mind has to be focused, his heart has to be focused on the mace and nothing else. Ve'in mevorech, Rashi learns, Rashi Brachas learns, it means when he sits down to his meal, he doesn't make hamoitzi. Ve'in mezamnen, nor could he make a zimun, which means, brachas hamazon. Ve'in mevorchen olav, nor should others make the bracha for him. Ve'in mezamnen olav, nor should they make brachas hamazon to be moitzi him. He's totally exempt, totally potter mikriya shema, minat tefilo, umekol mitzvahs hamus b'Torah. He's potter from everything. Shabbos. Now on Shabbos, he can't be involved in Kvuras HaMeis on Shabbos. So in that case, these halachas don't apply. Meis v'oichel, when he has his meal, he can do it reclining. V'oichel basa v'sheisei yayin, he can have his basa v'yayin. Mevorich, mezamein, he can have his hamoitzi, his brachas hamazon, mevorchin, mezan olav, he can have others do it for him, to be moitzi him. Bottom line is v'chayev b'kriyashma b'tefillah, some take out tefillin because it's Shabbos. U'b'chal mitzvahs, hamos b'Torah, he does all the mitzvahs. Why? Very pashut, because Shabbos is not his man of kvura, and he's not looking after the burial arrangements today, so there's no p'tur of an oinen. Rav Gamliel Omer, metoich shenes chayev be'elu, since he's chayev to do all these mitzvahs because it's Shabbos, nes chayev b'kulon, he must do all of them. What was he coming to include? What was Rav Gamliel coming to include here? But Rabbi Yechanan, one thing, one item. Tashim shamita ikabenayu. So according to Rav Gamliel, just as he's chayiv in the other mitzvahs, he's chayiv to mekayim his mitzvahs oina. He has an obligation to his wife, and he's chayiv on that too. Whereas the Tanna Kama seems to disagree with that. Since he's an oinen, some sort of avel situation, although he's not meant to conduct avelis befar hesya, but from Tashma Shamita, he's meant to refrain. And again, even though he's an Oinen, it doesn't have Dini Avelis, right? It doesn't have all the limitations. He can wear shoes and pretty much everything. He's not considered an Avel at this point. Avelis only begins from Kfura, but as we mentioned, the name of Tosfos, pleasures, engaging in personal pleasures is Asur, just like we spoke about Basar Yayin, even though it's a Shabbos, in which case we don't keep that away from him. But at least Tashma Shamita, he should refrain from. So what's the point of Machlekes? My la boka mafli. L'cha'ira, it would seem the point of Machlekes is like this. Demar Saba Yeshavelis b'Shabbos. Tanna Kama says that the concept of Avelis, so in this case is an Oinen, so he'll have an element of Avelis too, regarding personal pleasures. That applies on Shabbos as well, regarding Dvarim Shebetzina. So Tashma Shamita should not be conducted on Shabbos. Umar Saba ain't available to Shabbos, whereas Rabbi Gamliel holds, no, it's Shabbos. There's no availus, there are no elements of availus to Shabbos at all. Therefore, he says, he's chayiv in Tashma Shamit. So our question of whether or not availus applies on Shabbos, l'chayru, it seems a machlekes tanoim. Says the Gemara, not so fast. We can find a distinction between the Oinon situation in this price and your typical availus. Mimai. Dilma, perhaps. Ad kan like Amar Tanna Kama Hossam, perhaps. The reason why Tanna Kama does not allow Tashma Shamita in this case, not because Avelis applies on Shabbos, no. Elamashim the Mason with the Lefanav, look, the Mason is right here. It's inappropriate to engage in personal pleasures, such as Tashma Shamita, even though it's Shabbos, he should refrain. So all the bus of Yain we allow, that would be a direct steer to Shabbos. But Dvarim Shebetzina, such as Tashmish, he must refrain from. That's because Mesa Mutalafan is a unique situation. Aval Hacha, but over here in our case, meaning once he buried the mace, he's just the middle of Shiva. The ein mesa mutal of the mesa is not here. He's not preparing the mesa. He's not an oinen. Why? Perhaps in this case, no element of availus would apply, even dvarim shebetzina are mutar. Va'ad kan lav kamar gamliel hasam. And also you can say that perhaps Gamliel is only matter in that case of the oinon ba'kati loichal availus alei, because look, it's still pre-availus. He's just an oinon. He's not really an aval at that point, and therefore he allows all these things. So he's only an aval, and it's Shabbos today. Shabbos is not a time of kvuras. So the whole thing doesn't really apply. Aval hacha, but once he's an aval, he's in the shiva. The chol avelus alei, avelus has been activated. Hachanami, of course. Perhaps even Gamliel would agree that there is avelus b'Shabbos regarding dvarim shebetzina. So bottom line is, the two concepts, the two topics are unrelated. The Brayso today was speaking about an oinen, it's a unique situation, mesim mutal lefonav. Perhaps that's a reason to aser. It's not yet avelus. Perhaps that's a reason to be mater. In any case, it's unrelated to the shaila of ours regarding an aval within the shiva period. Shabbos arrives. Is he meant to do dvarim shebetzina? The machlekes we had earlier isn't necessarily related to this shaila. Boy minei Rabbi Yehuda Mishmol. Rabbi Yehuda asks the same question of Shmuel: Yesh avelus b'Shabbos? Or yesh avelus b'Shabbos? Do we apply or do we not apply avelus on Shabbos regarding dvarim shebetzina? Amar lei, Shmuel responds: Ein avelus b'Shabbos. No, Shabbos is incompatible with avelus. Even dvarim shebetzina are not conducted on Shabbos. But as Tosfos points out, Rabbi Yehuda himself didn't accept this halach. He himself tells us later on in the Amud that dvarim shebetzina do apply on Shabbos, and I believe that's what we do today. Okay, let's do a quick chazara. We spoke about how they do avelus on a chacham, on a bezdin, and a nasi. The first week of avelus, he stays home. Second week, he can go to shul, but change your place. Third week, go to shul, to your makom kavua, but minimize the social interaction. According to Rabbi Yehuda, everything is pushed back a week. First 1 or 2 weeks he stays home, etc., etc. What happens during Shloshim? So the halachas of Shiva expire, but 3 elements remain. Isur Gihutz, fresh, we paskin, fresh, new white begadim or asur, taking a haircut, or marriage. Regarding Mesa Ishtoi, we say you have to wait even longer, 3 regalim, contribute 2 regalim, and we make exception. In the case of Pru Revu, in which case we allow earlier marriage. You can even marry right after Shiva. And in the case where he has young children to look after, there as well we apply the heter. What about Avelus b'Shabbos regarding Dvarim shebetzina? We have a machlokes Amoraim. We learned about the concept of an oinan, mesa mutal lefonav, due to his preoccupation with the kvura arrangements. He's patur mikol mitzvos. On Shabbos, however, he's chayev. Tashin shamitan Shabbos, in this case, is a machlokes Tanai. All the best to you and much hatzlacha.